That's really, really bright. Okay. Um, so, once again, it is, I don't know, like 1:30 in the morning, and I can't sleep. And that's more common than I'm sure is normal. Um, I I'm just gonna start from the beginning. When I was 22 years old, um, sorry, when I was 23 years old, my oldest son was a year old, and um, I was having depressive episodes, and I was unable to take care of myself, my kid, like my son. I spent all day lying in bed. I couldn't get up. Honestly, I don't remember how often I showered. I still don't. That's another story. But I didn't have any. I, I, I went to work for quite a while, but yeah, it was hard. Um, but anyways, I went and I did talk to somebody, and um, just started kind of talking about some things about my childhood that just kind of were, I don't know, kind of in my head, and I couldn't kind of get out, and I guess they've always been there. There were memories that were always there, and um, I knew they weren't okay, but I mean, I never expected for him to say what he did. Basically, I guess I went to him with, it's kind of hard to remember for anybody who's experienced trauma and repressed memories. They kind of just start, like, they spiral, so like it's a pinpoint and then it's like a spiral, like a cone almost. Not really, but they spiral up, but they start small. It's like a crack, I guess, in a wall, and it just like gushes out at the end. But yeah, it was like just a pinprick, just like one thing I remember, that she used to do. I don't know, I know it was at least weekly, maybe more, I don't remember exactly, but probably just the weekends. Yeah. Anyways, she would often get super upset over nothing. Um, and that's another thing, like, that's another story, that the nothing part. Anyways, she would get to her extreme, can't take it anymore, whatever. And like her punishments were working, and I was disobeying her, and it was just too much for her. And the disobeying her is another story altogether, once again, and there's a lot. But anyway, so I don't know why I'm laughing at this now. Tears are like streaming down my face, remembering like saying this to him. So it's not a funny thing. It's just funny to me now. I'm also a little bit high. Um, oh, okay. I'm trying to tell this. I'm trying to get it out. Um, but yeah, so basically she would get all pissy, and she would storm to her room, and So she's in her room for whatever, and I'm left to clean up the mess and tidy up dinner and get the kids to bed. Well, Zoe and I had homework, and then get the kids to bed and get me to bed, and the pets, and anyways. So while I'm in the process of doing all this, she would have like a backpack or something with her, like a purse, whatever. She'd come storming the bedroom, and she'd just like grab something from the kitchen, and she'd like grab her keys, and in a huff she would like go storm out the door, and she'd like slam the door, and she'd be out, and she'd come back in, and she'd be like, when I get home, if I ever come back, I'm gonna come back when you're sleeping. I'm gonna light the house on fire and lock you in. Good luck getting your sisters out. And then she'd storm off. And I'm saying this like I'm looking at my face, and it's just not registering that it's horrific to hear at pretty much between 12 and, I guess, we moved when I was 16, so between 12 and 16. It was only at the one house that I remember that stuff. But yeah, so she so she would do that, and she'd pull out the driveway, and she'd like squeal off, right? She'd turn like a tires would squeal, and like, anyways, so it was this routine, and it happened all the time, and so it was, my arm was dying, and because I'm lying down and holding my phone. But I told him that, and I don't know, my brain doesn't work right. That's all that is. And I told him that, and then I told him like, I feel like I might have told him the punishments that I didn't, like, I never thought, like, I wouldn't, I mean, they were punishments, but I never would have thought that it would have been classified as what he classified it as. But basically, one of the major punishments that I experienced as the preteen teenager, like the 12 to 15 or 12 to 16 range, where it was most prominent, those 4 years or 5, yeah, overlap, whatever. But those, the major punishment that she decided was like most effective, I guess, I don't know. It was, I guess, it's still hard. So essentially, I would be disciplined for beyond minor things. So what I've been told is that the punishment rarely met the crime per se. The crime per se rarely met the, like, the punishments rarely made sense. But so the one vivid memory that I have, that I think I've told to like everybody because it was one of the only ones I remember at the beginning, was that I used to unload the dishwasher. That's a pretty normal chore for a 12 to 16-year-old. Okay, all right. Whatever. I'd be unloading the dishwasher, and she would come up behind me, and she would look, and if I was unloading the dishwasher wrong, she would lose her shit. And it didn't matter if I did it her way, there'd always be something. So I gave up, and I just let her yell at me for whatever, because it was too difficult to get to the precision that she wanted. I'm pretty sure she has some sort of perfectionism. There's a lot of shit that she has that was going through. I don't know. Doesn't excuse the behavior, but anyways, basically, it started with like, she would lose her shit if I unloaded the cutlery. If I rolled the drawers all the way past, so this is when, so our cutlery was on the doors, like the full pull down door. Anyways, so if I rolled the drawers out over the cutlery before emptying them, that was like hell on wheels. And then, what's next? So, and then if you were to move the same thing going from top to bottom. So then, if you didn't do the bottom drawer next, then you would be like lost. You lose your shit. And the same, it wasn't like you couldn't, like, God forbid you needed to grab a glass. Like, all the glasses are empty, you're like dying of thirst or whatever the situation is. Like, I mean, everybody does it, right? Like, I'm 99% sure that's a fairly common thing. Dishwasher just finished, you're like running out the door, you're like, oh, I need a glass of water quickly, and I open the dishwasher and I grab a glass from the top thing and I whatever. And that's perfectly normal, I think. I don't know. No. That would be worthy of the abuse that I explained to the psychologist. Essentially, that was a long roundabout. I don't know. My brain doesn't work. I say that a lot. So, one of the main punishments that I described the first time that I talked about it with somebody professional, was that something as minor as what I just described, or, I mean, I don't know how far up it would go, but anyways, this would be something punishable by this type of crime. This type of punishment would be for that crime, kind of thing. I would be forced to stand absolutely still, like breathing would be an issue. Like, the mime face, no. Breathing, yeah, that, I mastered that. If I were to move at all, breathing, just swaying, muscle spasm, like literally anything, she would lose her shit and I would get more punishment. But I would also have to stand like just out of her eye, like line of sight. Sometimes behind her, sometimes just out of the room, depending on where the room was situated, because she used to change the furniture. She used to change everything a lot. But then so do I, and I don't know if that's from her or something, I don't know. But anyways, so I had to stand like right out of her line of sight, but just like right there. And I don't know exactly how long they would last, but I know on average she would watch at least one episode of Stargate SG-1, which I detest, only because of how often, or I believe it's primarily because of how often she watched that while I was in these punishments. But yeah, so side note for 1 second, I just realized my sister absolutely loves Stargate SG-1, and I have this like ball of like is the best way to describe it, when whenever she talks about it, And I just realized why, because she used to sit with my mother on the couch while I was being punished. But I mean, she was like 2 to 5, so I mean, or 2 to 6. I can't really blame her in any way. I don't. But that explains it. It does make sense. The ball kind of feels broken up. See, that's what talking about it does. It's been 15 minutes and I'm dying of thirst. It is a really hot day and it is still beyond hot and it's like 2 a.m. And I'm hoping my neighbors upstairs are not fighting, because they do, and I'm in the process of dealing with that, and it's but I guess it's pretty much kind of the basis of what I said to him. So just kind of finish off the video for tonight. Essentially, he told me, just from like that minimal stuff that I talked about, there was like, obviously I talked to him about more, there was more that came out, but those were two of the biggest things. And he told me that he was diagnosing me with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, because my childhood and those 4 years, those like 5 years and beyond, and now that I've had more memories come through, this now, but at that point, it was just those like 5 years, but now I'm pretty sure it goes back to about 8, and then until I left about 18, so about a 10-year gap of a decade there. I love the word decade for some reason. I always have, actually, like, always. I have memories of using it, like, and loving it. So, well. But at that point, it was kind of just those 4 to 5 years, and he said I had complex post-traumatic stress disorder, from the emotional and physical abuse, which is what he said that abuse was. That's physical abuse, apparently. That's awesome. And neglect. Oh yeah, this is so common to me. But I actually had a breakdown earlier because I saw like a list of like ages that you're able to like leave your kids alone in certain states, like legally allowed, blah blah blah. And so between the ages of 10, from the time my sister was born, and 16, I think is like the oldest age on that chart. It's like basically 16 is like, oh, you can leave them alone for like maybe 2 days. But like 14 is like the first time they're like, oh, a couple hours, like whatever. I was babysitting, I call it babysitting. I was watching my newborn sister, and my 7-year-old sister for like chunks of like half hour when like we were alone with her, and then by 12 I was home with them all summer. I was like a full-time caregiver all summer, and weekends, like school year weekends. And I just realized that I was a full-time caregiver. Like I had more than a full-time job. F her. I should have been paid for that shit. Wonder how much it would be. Plus the abuse. Anyways, I'm getting off track. Point is, all of that, and he was like, yeah, that's neglect. That's abuse. That's yeah. And, so, fast forward, 7 years? Not 6 years? I don't know. Anyways, so now, 6 years, I guess, 5.5, 6 years. Now, we have also, by kind of getting the repressed memories back, gives me more a better ability to vocalize what I've experienced and what I feel. And basically, I was told that the abuse that the bulk of the emotional abuse that I experienced was something called emotional incest, and it basically means that the one spouse or the one parent, typically the opposite gender, usually not sexually, but not necessarily either of those things, but obviously in my case the same gender, but there was no sexual abuse in any way, but essentially the hostile relationship that she had with my father and my stepfather, she used me as a replacement, so anything that she would get frustrated about or upset about, or raising the kids, or financial stuff, or when I got older, sometimes relationship stuff, but not really. But basically anything that she would have, like that backboard that you have with a spouse that was toxic with her partners, her spouses, was put on me at the age of 12. And so, yeah, like I don't, it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with because my brain was not, I wasn't given what, what I thought was a fairly normal childhood, to be honest. I thought pretty much everybody's house was the same, and then I kind of got, like, it confuses me when people like their mother. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know. I could care less. It doesn't confuse me. I completely understand it now. But when I was in school, people were like, oh my god, I love my mom so much. I'm like, why? Well, why? Why do you love your mother? That's weird. I always thought it sounds so stupid. Yeah, but I never really understood. I never said this stuff out loud, but I guess if I did, I probably would have figured things out earlier. But social anxiety. So yeah, basically, childhood emotional incest, and no, well, emotional incest is only current with a parent and a child, so it's not childhood. That would be redundant. So emotional incest, and physical abuse, and neglect, and yeah. So now I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety and depressive episodes. Along with that, I suffer from currently I suffer from extreme flashbacks. I deal with oh, F me, I don't know, maybe it depends on the day, but usually somewhere between 5 and 20 flashbacks. Typically they're emotional. Sometimes they are both. Sometimes they're just I don't visual, but not visual. That doesn't make sense. I'm not seeing it. I don't know if that makes. I don't know. 'Cause, 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 But yeah, I lost my train of thought. That happens a lot. Yeah, so I deal with those symptoms. There is quite a bit more, but essentially it's just like every day just feels like I'm kind of wading in quicksand, mentally, um, in terms of the speed, for what I'm like used to, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but like my brain has so much going on. I'm trying to push the um, flashbacks and the memories aside, but then my abuse and neglect are from child raising, like raising children. And I'm currently a stay-at-home mom of an almost 7-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 7-month-old. So I am triggered every moment of every day, and it sucks balls. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me. But I mean, I don't think I'd be able to do it at all if it weren't for like as much as there's a lot he needs to learn about mental health and everything. I'm glad he doesn't know, like, because that means he never had to go through stuff. My husband is like my rock. He listens to everything, even though I know he has no idea what I'm talking about sometimes. Um, and you know, he's always there when I just need, like, usually there. You know, there's always things. But I mean, everybody has them. But yeah, no, it's, you know, between him and my kids, I don't know what I do. And I don't, sometimes I feel like it makes me sound like an addict, but, and marijuana and cannabis, I don't, if I didn't have that, I'd probably be, getting stoned off of, T3s, or T1s, over the counter. T1s or even Tylenol, like extra, was like all the time before I started smoking. Like I used to smoke for this, recreationally, and then when I started smoking, when everything started happening, I also tore my rotator cuff, and so I got addicted to T1s, and because once I got caught up with the T3s, I was on T1s over the counter. I was flying through them, and it was really, 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 really bad. Anyway, so I weaned off, once I was let go, left my job, whatever. Once I left my job and I was home, I was either super depressive and some of what I now know are emotional flashbacks, or I was high. And I learned that certain strains get you back to normal, sometimes, even a little bit better in, like, in terms of, like, focus and stuff. Those are, like, I'm not going to get into it. I'm explaining weed now. But anyways, those are my biggest things that help me with all this, and I just, literally every moment of every day. Also, I need to tell somebody, whatever, tell the world, to tell you too. So, my entire life, like, as far back as I can remember, yeah, maybe not past the abuse, I haven't had memories of that. But basically, I am always chewing the inside of my lip. Like, always. I'm pretty sure I was doing a bit in this video. But, like, you don't want to see it. I don't even know if I'm going to post this but, I posted other crazy, weird, honest things, and holy, it's already been a half an hour. Honestly, I just realized that there's a couple other people, quite a few other people that I should, credit for helping me through everything. Because to be honest, as much as it's been extremely difficult now, I know it was extremely difficult to live through, and the friends that I had in school, I didn't have many, but the ones that I did have were absolutely amazing, and I never was able to explain what I was going through or understand that it was really abusive, but they were able to kind of be my rocks without knowing that, and yeah, there's certain people that I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. So, yeah. Ugh. It feels kind of gross to talk about, but I'm kind of glad I got it out. Also, speaking of school friends, and even though we weren't close in school, this is because of Melanie and your video yesterday. I don't know what date it is, and I guess I am going to post it. And keep talking about stuff. It sucks. This all started because I just wanted people to know that I hate my mother. I call her my birther. It's my new. I used to call her my birth giver, but I think birther is a lot better. Yeah, she, no feelings. There used to be a lot of hatred. Every once in a while, they creep back in. But I'm kind of at the point where it's just like, I can't. I'm not going to burden myself with that hatred. In the memories, they come back in the emotional flashbacks. I'm still rambling. It's late. Yeah. Not everybody loves their mother. And I'm really hoping it's a pretty rare thing to have gone through abuse the way I did. Kind of alone with nobody. I didn't have another parent there. I did have a dad and stepdad. Like, I did see my dad. I'm still rambling. But as with everybody else, I didn't know it was wrong. I didn't know how to explain it. And so, yeah. And I don't know what unconditional love is. And I'm just kind of learning that I don't know these things. I mean, I felt it before, but I never knew it. And so, after kind of Melanie's video today, and I just, yeah, fuck it. Let's just tell people the truth. Like, I am so glad that I was wrong and that mothers are pretty amazing, and I get to experience that as a mother, and the way that my kids look at me makes me feel amazing. I hate that I don't know what it feels like to love somebody like that, and to feel that love, but I'm glad that everybody else has it. Well, most people have it, from at least one parent, because I know my dad loves me, but it's not the same seeing somebody like twice a month. But yeah, so that was a lot of shit. I just want to go to bed. It's like 2 a.m. We have a double header tomorrow. Baseball, Mom. I'm gonna stop talking. Like,